Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out another micro FPV camera. This is the RunCam Sparrow 2, and this is a little bit smaller than the original Sparrow. They actually made a whole bunch of changes to the from the original Sparrow to the Sparrow 2. In fact, it's like practically a completely different camera. It's still a CMOS sensor, 700 TV lines in this case. I think previously it was 600 TV lines. The case was orange, a little bit bigger. Yeah, essentially, they basically just revamped everything. The old Sparrow had a 16:9 sensor. This is a 4:3 sensor, and I believe that they created this in response to the Fox-ear Predator and the Micro Predator. For all those folks that didn't like the way the image on the Eagle looked and preferred the image on the Predator, they came out with this camera, which is, in terms of the image quality, what the image algorithm produces, it's pretty similar to the Predator. The colors are slightly different, but it's sort of got that sort of same feel. Now, interestingly enough, this does come with presets, and I'll go over that in a second. The preset that this came with out of the box is set to personal, and I'll show you some of those settings in a minute, but I thought that the default stock settings on this camera were pretty dark compared to the stock settings on the Predator. Obviously all this is very adjustable. That's one of the nice things about the CMOS cameras, is that you can make any of the adjustments you want to your preferences, and I can show you some of the settings you can change. But obviously with all the settings that you can change, you can have an infinite number of different types of images that the camera can possibly produce. For the purposes of this review, I left it a default stock, and whatever it came with in terms of the personal settings that were in the camera. Obviously, I'll go over the other settings that are possible. You might get a different image that you might like better if you actually see the other types of preset settings. But I didn't actually record every single one of those because the video would be way too long, so I just recorded it with the default settings. So I'm just going to quickly go over the camera. Obviously standard 19 by 19 size, 2.1mm lens. You have a 6-pin connector here in the back, and it's a little bit different here. You get 5 to 36 volts voltage range, power and ground, and then video. You have VBAT, so you have a voltage reading on the screen for OSD. Then you have an OSD controller, and I have the controller connected already. I have this connected to a video transmitter, and so let's get right into looking at the image, field of view, and all that, and all the settings. Okay, got the camera plugged in. You can see here it shows the actual setting that it powers up with. It's set to personal. You get a voltage reading here in the lower left corner, your pilot name, and your power on time. All these things, you can move that around. Pretty standard stuff here. Let me just show you that you can actually turn all of these things off if you want to. You hold the joystick, press the up button, and then this OSD menu will come up. You can change your pilot name here. You can change the voltage alarm here. So when the voltage hits 7.4 volts, the voltage alarm will start flashing. So I'm going to actually adjust this up. Let's say that we'll set this to 7.8, and then we'll exit. And then now you can see that as I go to now it's at 7.7 volts, it turns purple because it's below the threshold. And we'll go back in the menu here. You can actually turn all these things on and off. So I'm going to actually turn these things off because that's what I prefer. So I'm going to turn the timer and all of those things off currently. And you see all that is off. This will actually go away here. It times out after a few seconds. Now if you want to adjust or change the preset settings, you just press and hold the button on the right. And then there's light tracks. That's another setting. Outdoor, indoor, and cloudy. I think there's only 5. Okay, there's twilight as well, so that might be pretty good for nighttime flying if you want to do some low light twilight or maybe evening flying. And then back to personal. So you can see out of all the presets, this does seem to be the darkest to me. Okay, so and then right now I'm just kind of like taking a look at the field of view. It's pretty similar to the Predator. It's a little bit shorter on the vertical side and about as wide on the horizontal side. So I've heard stories that the sensor is the same, but I can't see how that could be possible if this is a 700 TV line sensor versus the Predator's 1000 TV line sensor. But it could be maybe perhaps from the same manufacturer or similar line, maybe a lower end sensor, being 700 TV lines versus 1000. But I can tell the sensor is a little bit different because the aspect ratio and the field of view is a little bit different from the Micro Predator. Okay, so if I want to take a look at the actual settings for this particular preset, which is personal, it's just basically a user-defined setting. You just press the center button here, go into the setup menu, hit picture adjust, and you can see all these numbers here, 128, 138, 148 for brightness, contrast, sharpness. This is the what's called the personal setting. If you go to one of the other presets, these numbers will change, and let me just show you what that would look like. I'll go to, let's say, light tracks. That's for like if you're flying on a, say, an indoor area with some like lights to light up your track. This might be a pretty good one. And if we look at the numbers for that one, you can see the numbers are different: 125, 138, 138. So you can that obviously maybe want to use one of the presets and then adjust the numbers from there, and that would actually then turn that to a new personal setting. So that, keep that in mind, that would probably replace that. So you may want to play around with this one and use some of the other presets to find a better setting that you like versus the actual default setting that came with the camera stock, which I personally didn't like too much. I thought it was too dark. In any event, I'll go ahead and show you some flight footage I got from this camera, and you'll see that it is quite similar to the way the Predator looks, although I do think that it is a true 700 TV line camera because the detail is not quite as good as on the 1000 TV line sensor of the Predator. But you guys make that judgment yourself, and leave me some comments below what you guys think, and I'll go ahead and show you the flight footage now.